Ngani Laumape is leaving New Zealand to head off to Stade Francais in France. That news broke, this morning here in New Zealand. It's been rumoured for quite some time, to be fair, and the rumours had kind of just started to die down to the point where it was either going to be there would be something announced, or he wasn't going to go through with it, I guess. There had to be something happening because there had been pretty solid rumours about a month ago linking him with a move to France. It's now coming through. I do kind of feel bad for Laumape because I think he's maybe another one of those examples of maybe like an underutilised resource here in New Zealand, but it's maybe just a case where we've got heaps of depth and they struggled to find a spot for him. So he's 28 years old. He's played like 15, I think it was 13 tests, 15 games for the All Blacks. Scored 8 tries. He's been playing for the Hurricanes since 2016 when he made a switch from rugby league. He's been a pretty prolific try scorer with the Hurricanes as well. The main criticism, and Laumape is a guy that divides opinion. People who love him for his very direct running style and his ability to beat defenders, and some people say he is too one-dimensional. He doesn't offer a full set of skills and his work rate's not high enough. Interestingly, I believe that's kind of the message that the All Blacks selectors gave him, especially with the 2019 Rugby World Cup member at that World Cup. They ended up taking Anton Leonard-Brown, Jack Goodhue, Sonny Bill Williams and Ryan Crotty as their kind of specialist midfielders. They didn't take Laumape, and I don't know, he's one of the guys that gets brought up when we're looking back at that campaign as maybe someone who could have added a bit of value, someone who could have added something a bit different anyway. And I know from personal experience, having looked through his stats in the past, he definitely has offered something quite different from the other guys who play in that kind of same generation as him. And this is again why people either love him or hate him. He's very generally been a very direct ball runner, able to crash and bash, beat defenders, score tries. But the criticism of him has been, as I said, his work rate's too low, doesn't get through enough on defence, and that he doesn't pass, he doesn't kick, doesn't have kind of an all-round game. Interestingly, though, I think since 2019, he's worked his butt off to really adjust that area of his game. But it's weird that it seems to have been kind of at the cost of his traditional game as well. I don't know if that's just because he is getting older and maybe his body can't do what it used to do. Like, he used to bump off defenders like crazy. He's either lost that ability or toned it down a bit, but he has certainly gained a full set of skills in other areas. I'll give you this season's numbers as a comparison. So I would say in Super Rugby Aotearoa 2021, the two premier kind of guys in the number 12 jersey were David Havili from the Crusaders and Ngani Laumape from the Canes. Now, it's always hard in rugby to compare head-to-head because, remember, they're playing on different teams. The Crusaders won it. The Hurricanes finished bottom. The Crusaders have got a pretty experienced 9, be it Hall or Drummond, and then an All Black in Richie Mo'unga to give Havili that service, whereas Laumape's playing outside 2 pretty inexperienced guys, as the Canes had all kinds of issues at depth with 9 and 10. But for the head-to-head stuff, taking that into account, clean breaks, Laumape, because they play the same amount of games, Laumape has 10, Havili has 3. And clean breaks has not traditionally been Laumape's thing, it's always been defenders beaten. But defenders beaten, actually, Havili has more, 22 to 20. So, kind of one each in terms of the stats. Havili does a lot more kicking. Remember, he's a fullback who's kind of been pushed into the midfield. I know he's a utility. Havili can play lots of places. Whereas Laumape has had 12 kicks. And you might say, well, 32 to 12, that's a huge gap. And it is a huge gap. But of all the midfielders, Laumape is the second highest kicker. And a couple of years ago, if you told me that, I would have said you're mad, that there's no way he's got a kicking game at all. But for him to be kind of the second most kicking midfielder in New Zealand shows that I think he has tried to adjust that area of his game. Run meters is 491 to 150, so Laumape absolutely dominant. Passes, Laumape 62 to 59. He's the most passing midfielder in Super Rugby Aotearoa. And again, that's what the criticism, if you do yourself the mental torture of going to read Facebook comments, which I would recommend nobody do, you'll see all kinds of nonsense about the guy never passes. He can only run it straight. Like, people who don't watch games, I guess, or haven't watched him in a couple of years anyway. But yeah, he is a distributor. He doesn't make as many tackles as Havili. Havili has got the highest tackle count of any midfielder in New Zealand, but Laumape again is second. But Laumape's overall tackle percentage is higher, 92% to Havili's 87. So he's not making as many, but his completion rate's higher. Try assists, Laumape had 4, Havili had 5. So it's kind of tight. They've both got their strengths and weaknesses. Like I said, rugby's hard to compare direct head-to-head stats because it's not like a one-on-one game like baseball. But I do think Laumape's game has more to it now than what it used to have. There's some birds going bonkers outside. I wonder if you can hear them. But maybe the fact that his defenders beaten total is just not that huge number that it used to be means he's either getting on or he's sacrificed one part of his game to improve something else. Like he can't have his cake and eat it too. I don't know. I am disappointed to see him go because, as I said, I think he's maybe a bit of an underutilized resource, but there's plenty of talent in that midfield in New Zealand, so maybe he's feeling that pinch. And at 28 now is the time to go and make some coin before he enters the kind of latter stages of his career. But 28, in theory, you should really be at the peak of your powers, and that's the time he's going. So I guess he's seen the writing on the wall. As I said, the negotiations had apparently been going on for some time. Maybe the fact that the Hurricanes aren't looking like winning anything anytime soon was also a factor in his decision. I'm not sure, but obviously we wish him all the best. Hopefully he does well in France. And thank him for his service to New Zealand rugby. He's certainly a different player than he was a few years ago. He certainly brought us some entertainment. And if you're keen to watch a bit of French rugby, you might still get to see him keep on playing and developing as well. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts. Do you think he's going to be missed, or do you think that midfield is just too crowded? Do you think the All Blacks, with only giving him kind of limited numbers, didn't use him as best they could? Or do you think back in 2019, he was just too one-dimensional to make an impact on the World Cup? Anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.